Hello and welcome back to Ben and Danielle Reviews. I know it's been a while since I've done a top 10 video, so I figured that this would be as good a time as any. Today we kind of live in an age where there are a lot of these like giant Kickstarter games and campaign games and games with tons and tons and tons of content, more than you can ever get through in your lifetime. I usually, when I play games, I'm usually teaching games to new gamers, or it is like a shop setting where we have like 2 to 3 hours to get through a game, and I have to teach that while also maybe teaching another game, or maybe possibly 2 other games, or I'm like busy with work, and so I will have to help with ringing up customers or all that. So I don't usually get to do a ton of those like big box games, and so it's not something I usually go for. Instead, I usually like to go for these small box games that I can kind of fit in my pocket or in my bag and take to go. And so I thought that I would talk about my top 10 favorite small box games instead. And so without further ado, let me get started. You can see here I have a ton of just games just piled up around everywhere. I got some more and 2 other floors and 2 shelves, yeah, and then a bunch at work as well. So I need to do a big culling at some point, maybe like 100 or so games I just need to like get rid of. But I will figure that out, whether I like give them away to people that I play games with, or if I sell them locally or what. But I gotta figure that out at some point. Gotta figure out like which games I want to keep, which ones I want to get rid of, all that. Without further ado, let's get started. My number 10 is a little game, probably the smallest one on my list, one of the smallest ones. It's just cards, and that is this little game called Pugs and Mugs. Pugs and Mugs is this game that's been so generously donated to me by the folks Stop, Drop, and Roll over in the UK. It is a adorable little game where you are collecting pugs, and you are turning those pugs in to get mugs. And there's 5 colors in the game, and you want to get all 5 color mugs to win the game. There's also pugs of those same colors. You have to turn those in for those mugs. It's an adorable little game. It's definitely one that's easy to pull out, easy to teach. It plays in about half hour to an hour, so it's a good period for a sort of like, I guess a beginning of the night, end of the night sort of game. So that works out really well. That is Pugs and Mugs. My number 9 is not a game that's easy to get your hands on, but I'm very happy that I have it. It's a nice game, and that is Spirits of the Forest. Spirits of the Forest is a game which you have 3 rows of tiles in the central board, and you have to start taking tiles from one of the 2 ends of the rows, and you are trying to just collect different types of spirits. There's a certain number of spirits. I forget how many actual types of spirits there are in the game, but you're trying to collect the most of them, and they're worth a certain number of points based on how many you have of those spirits. But you only get to score for each particular spirit if you have the most of that particular spirit. If you don't have the most of that particular spirit, you don't get to score any points for that type of spirit, and whoever has the most points at the end wins. There's also this cool mechanic where you can reserve pieces. You have these like little plastic gem pieces that you can place on spirits on the board, and you can reserve those spirits. But not only does it make it so that it's reserved for you, but your opponents can take those ones that you've reserved, but they have to pay one of their gems, and they don't get that gem back for the rest of the game. So it's a whole idea of when do I take take spirits, and what spirits do I take? Like how I see my opponent has this many of these spirits, and I need like 1 or 2 more to catch up to them. So do I take that, or do I let them have that, and then I try and get the monopoly on a different spirit? It's a cute little game, not the easiest to get your hands on in the States, but it's definitely worth it for a nice little like 15-minute game that's like for the end of the night. My number 8 is another little colorful game, I guess, and that is Ovis by Play With Us Design. It plays 2 to 5 players, and how it works is you have a circle of different fruits in front of yourself, and on the back of each fruit is a color of a feather associated to that color of fruit. You were trying to be the first one to collect all 7 colors to win, and you have a circle of fruits in front of yourself with what they have a numerical value to them. So you have, like, you see here, this one has 1 and 2 and 3, 4, and what you're going to do is on your turn you're going to place a card from your hand in between 2 other cards, and if the card that you placed is the difference between the two cards between it, like say for example you have a 2 and a 1, if I play a 1 fruit, then between this 1 and 2, I get to take both those fruits in between it, the 1 and the 2. So you're playing cards in between other cards in the circle to collect all 7, be the first one to collect all 7 of that colors to win the game. It's another game that was donated so generously from Play With Us Design in Taiwan. Love their products. There's another game I'm going to be talking about from them a little bit later on. Another foreign game, actually. I have not very many American games on my list here, but this one is a point game, and that is Deep Sea Adventure. Deep Sea Adventure is a push your luck game, which you have D6 dice that are numbered, I think they're numbered 1 and 2, 1 to 3, 1, 2, and 3 twice, and you are playing as divers going down and collecting treasure. The farther you go, the more points that your treasure is going to be worth, the farther down you go, but you also have to decide when you want to stop and go back to the sub, because oxygen is shared between all the players, and you have to determine how much oxygen you want to use, because if oxygen runs out before you can get back to the submarine, your diver does not make it back. They don't survive. You lose all your treasure, and it just falls all the way back down to the bottom of the sea, and you don't get any points for that round. And so it's a cool concept of figuring out like how much oxygen you want to waste, how much treasure you want to take, because the more treasure you have, the more oxygen you consume, and it's shared oxygen. So say you have 3 treasure, that's 3 units of oxygen every turn that you're using up, and that also affects your opponents. You also have to want to take enough treasure to stop your opponents, but enough that you'll be able to make it back to the submarine yourself. It's a cute little game. That is Deep Sea Adventure. Number 6 is another card game, and that is called Don't Llama, or Don't Let Llamas and Markers Accumulate. It's a game by Reiner Knizia. It is a card game in which you have a hand of cards in front of yourself, and on your turn you're going to be either playing a card from your hand, or you are going to be drawing a card, or you're going to be passing and taking your points for the round. And so on your turn, to play a card, you have to play the same number or 1 number higher. Cards are numbered 1 through 6, followed by llama. And then after llama, it starts back over at 1 again. And then how scoring works is you want to have the lowest score at the end of the game. The end of the game is triggered by whoever has 40 points first, I believe. I think it's 40. And then you don't get points for duplicates. So say you had 3 3s in your hand, you only score points for 1 3. So duplicates don't hurt you, but having multiple different numbers does hurt you. As well as llamas, those hurt you as well, because instead of being worth 7 points, they're worth 10 points in the game. And that is Don't Llama. It's a cute little game. Definitely something that I play instead of Uno. It's a great little card game that it plays up to 6 people too. So if I'm busy doing something for work and during board game day, I will give them something like this, and can keep them occupied for about half an hour while I can get through some customers, get through a project I'm working on, and then I can get them started on a slightly heavier game or bigger game. All right, that is 10 through 6. Now top 5. All right. Number 5 is another push your luck game, and that is called Push. Push is another card game in which you are going to be making piles of cards, and then you're going to keep flipping over cards, place them into those piles until you decide you want to stop or you bust. So in this game, you have, again, just like with Llama, you have cards numbered 1 through 6, but there are also different colors, and there are 5 different colors, 6 numbers, and there are these black cards here. Those black cards are not good for you to have, because every time you get a black card in front of yourself, you have to roll this die here, and that one has a black side and one side for each color, and whatever color you roll, you lose all of your cards of that color. So this is a fun press your luck game called Push. Plays really quickly and it's easy to teach, so it gets to the table quite a bit during those events. Number 4 is a solo game, Freedom and Freeze. It is a deck builder, and that is Friday. I'm not a huge solo fan. I don't find myself playing a ton of solo games in my spare time, but this one's a fun little one if you're just looking for something simple and challenging. I don't think I've ever actually won this game or even come close to winning this game now that I think about it. But in this game, you have Friday here, and you are trying to survive the island and all the elements. And you start out with him being really weak, and you're going to be getting rid of some of those weak cards, getting a stronger deck, until eventually you become strong enough to fight the pirate ships that come on. And once you defeat them, you win the game. There's different pirate ships, there's different cards. There's 3 rounds in the game before you get to the pirate ships, and each one is increasingly harder. So that's an interesting idea. So where one card is maybe worth only a few points the first round, and it's easy to defeat. If you don't fight it that first time, it'll be more powerful the second time, or more powerful the third time around. And so it's just deciding when you want to fight different things and when you want to run away from them. And that is Friday. Pretty challenging solo game, but it's not hard to get into, just hard to win. Number 3 is also a solo game. I think this is the final solo game on my list, and that is Mr. Cabbagehead's Garden. So Mr. Cabbagehead's Garden, you are drafting cards, and you're placing those cards in your a sort of garden, and you want, in order to accomplish certain goals, and you want to have your garden be valuable and worth points, but you also don't want it to be too valuable, because if your garden is too valuable, then your neighbors will come and steal your vegetables while you're on vacation. It's a cute little solo game. The deluxe bee meeples in this are really cute and a lot of fun to try if you're into solo games. Mr. Cabbagehead's Garden. My number 2 is a 2-player game, and that is a trading in the Mediterranean theme. Not the most fun theme in the world, but it's Jaipur. Jaipur is a 2-player game in which you are trading goods and then selling them for points, and whoever has the most points wins. And you play the best of 3 rounds wins the game. So you have these camels that you're trading, as well as you are going to be trading more common and unique goods. There'll be like crystals and spices and things like that, where the gems are going to be worth more money than the spices are. but you also get bonuses for trading in more than 2 at a time. You have to trade in at least 2, but you get bonuses if you trade in 3, 4, or 5. And the more you trade in, the more your bonuses are. And also has this cool mechanic of how much do I want to do on my turn, because the more things that I take on my turn, the more options that are going to be available to my opponent. I like games that give you like that kind of sort of freedom to it, but it costs you in the sense of it lets your opponent do more things as well. So you have to really decide, hey, do I only take 2 cards, or do I take all, or do I take camels? Because camels, if there's a bunch of camels available and you take all the camels on your turn, that's going to make a lot of options for your opponents for cards that they can take, because the trade row replenishes at the end of every round. That is Jaipur. My number 1 is a game that's, the cover has been a little dinged up. It's gotten a ton of views, and this is a game that I got sent to me from Play With Us Design. It's a 2-player game that's really fun, and that is Soloween. If you haven't played Soloween before, it's definitely worth checking out. It's available on BGA, and I got this copy directly from them because they were really nice. And we ordered some copies for our store. I think we ordered like 12 copies, and we actually sold through all of our copies of this game because it's so popular in the shop. In this game, you are trying to make 4 in a row. You have these wooden discs that are, I'll show you them. You got these wooden discs that are orange and green ghost discs, and you are and you got this cloth board here, and you are trying to make 4 in a row, and you are placing your ghosts on this board, and on your turn you place one on one of the 16 spots that's unoccupied. But you got to be careful though, because all of the ones that are orthogonally adjacent to the one that you just placed flip over to their opposite side. So you're kind of just strategizing, planning, see, hey, where can I make 4 in a row? Where can I place it so that my opponent does not get 4 in a row? It's a really fun game. That is also just the basic game. There's also a more complex game where you have like special player powers and alternate ways to win. I don't usually teach that to them for the first couple games. I kind of just let people get used to the mechanics of the game and making 4 in a row and strategizing with that before I introduce them to the more complex game. But it's a really fun one, and it plays very quickly. It's very easy to teach and can be taught to anyone. It says ages 6 and up, so you can start them really young with this game, and it plays really quickly. It says 15 to 30, but it takes between like 10 to 20 minutes for most of my games. And that is Soloween. That is my number 1. Well, thank you everyone for watching, and have a great rest of your day. Bye.